So this is going to be called the cabin series. We're at our cabin, our A-frame. Here it is. Here it is. And we have Dave and Marianne Cardinal. It's July 5th,
Plus
2020. Oh, plus Indy. And Dave is here. Hi.
Plus
So
Dave.
we're going to do a little series of Mom and Dad talking about all their cabins. And so the first one we're starting with is when Mom was a young girl and they used to go to Beulah. So she's going to talk a little bit about that. Mom, what do you remember about the Beulah cabin?
You mean when I was a little girl or after I got married?
No, when you were little, and there was the cabin that the Pettits seemed to have in their family that started, I think, your interest in going to Beulah. Was Aunt Ernestine had one?
Well, Aunt Ernestine had one, and I guess Anna Beaker owned one right there.
Yep.
And I don't know if she gave that to Hank or somehow, but I can remember going up to Ernestine's when I was little, but you know, say it was probably like 1940-41, and then the war started and there was gas restrictions, and you really had to save your coupons to be able to afford to go out of town.
Right, and remember that. What kind of car did Grandpa have that you would drive in? Do you remember?
Well, we had our 1934 Buick.
Was it a Rambler?
No, that was later.
That was later. Oh, you had a Buick, and
Yeah.
you had a gas coupons. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you were up there, what did you do up there in Beulah?
Well, there wasn't too much to do. I can remember how, do you remember how you kids used to follow Dave around when he mowed the grass?
Well, that's the trailer. We'll get to that one.
Yeah.
But I'm asking you, when you were a young girl and you would go up to this cabin in Beulah, do you remember what you did up there?
Oh, well, I guess we would just have a picnic or something. I do
Hiking.
remember once my cousin Joanne Pettit. Now, I don't know how she came up, if we invited her, but she and I went for a hike into the woods, like, you know, and lo and behold, we came face to face with a couple deer.
Ooh.
And they were shocked as we were, and we all just stood there and looked.
Crazy. Well,
And that was sort of exciting.
yeah.
And I remember when we did rent that cabin, I know during the war, Grandpa had to work, so he brought us up on one weekend, and my brother, I don't even think Jim and Joe were born yet, and I can remember playing in the creek and enjoying that. And we stayed in the Nelsons, Dr. Nelson's house. We rented.
I actually remember. I remember that one because I remember so distinctly that when we were in the Nelson's cabin that summer, you were pregnant with who is now Julie, and you.
Yeah,
I remember you
know,
telling
I
me
was pregnant.
you were going to have another baby, and I asked if I could name her,
Oh, really?
and you said yes, and I named her after that Julie. Who was that family up in Beulah that had the horses? They were really nice. They would let us ride their horses once in a while.
I can't remember who.
I can't remember either, but anyway, that's one of my big memories of Beulah.
That's how Julie got her name.
Yeah, there you go,
They had
Julie.
a horse named Julie.
No, the girl's name was Julie, and I thought she was so pretty and amazing, and so that's why I wanted to name her Julie. All right, so that's cabin one. We're going to do another video with the next cabin. All right, bye. we're at cabin number 2, which is not really a cabin. It's a trailer. So, Dad, I think you're the one who found it. Tell us all about the trailer. It's not just any trailer. What kind of trailer is it?
Well, before the trailer, we found this piece of land
Oh,
in Beulah that had a little creek running through it with water seasonally, and we bought the land with the idea that we would eventually build some kind of cabin on it, which never happened. But one time I was talking to one of my clients that owned a car lot, and I went and he had this what looked like a 2-story trailer on his lot. And I said, "What's that?" And he said, "Oh, that's an old trailer that I'm trying to get rid of." And I looked at it and I said, "Gee, that would be nice to have up there on the piece of land we own up above Beulah before we get around to building a cabin." And he made me a really good deal. I think it was $500 for it, and they would even haul it up. And when Marianne and I talked about it, you thought it was a good idea.
Sure.
So we actually had it taken to our driveway where it sat for several months while we remodeled the inside of it, adding, I think it had a second level, and I think we made that into the bunk room. There was a bathroom, there was a kitchen, small kitchen, and another bedroom all downstairs. So we had it hauled up to there. I can't remember, it was a little difficulty because we had to drive through the creek. But anyway, we got it installed, and it was sat there for probably a couple of years, and that's what Mom was remembering when I used to mow the grass. Not just mow it, but mow little paths in it. And all the kids would follow along, not even thinking about the lawnmower kicking up dirt and rocks and anything else. But it was a game, and that became a ritual.
yeah. I remember climbing that tree that was right next to where we had a picnic table, and I remember Mom always laying in the hammock, just exhausted. I don't know why.
Why were you exhausted?
Exhausted.
And I do remember getting to shoot like a BB gun down at the creek at some cans. I don't know why I have that memory, but... Oh, and I was just thinking about this. You had built us a tree house. Remember when you built the tree house there? The tree house, it was way on the back of the property where we had originally camped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You kids wanted a tree house, and so I guess I remember bringing some lumber up, and we built a tree house. It wasn't much of a structure, but I think you kids enjoyed it nevertheless.
And Mom, what was it like cooking in that trailer? Do you remember, like, the kitchen at all? In that trailer? I remember it being tiny, and there was a table that flopped down from the wall.
Yeah, I remember the table, and I can remember the Cotlers coming over, and we played cards at night at that little table. And
You cooked in there, although most of the time we used the grill outside. Cooking chicken and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And why did you decide to never build a house there?
I don't know.
Because there was nothing for your dad to do.
That's-
No golf or nothing. And he was bored.
Well, that's true.
That was true, yeah.
Yeah, they're really, it was nice. We would hike, and, there were kind of places to go. But other than hiking, that was it. You couldn't ski. You couldn't play golf. You couldn't do anything. And so I think that's when we thought, gee, it would kind of be nice to have a place at a ski area. And so we started looking.
All right, that's going to be the next video. That will be cabin number 2, I guess.
I can remember hiking there in Beulah when we had that, and we had Susie dog. And one day, I don't know who was a baby at the time.
I think it was Julie. Are you going to talk about when we got lost in Devil's Canyon?
We did, and I can remember sitting there trying to nurse her. Probably I didn't have any milk by this time. And waiting for. I don't know if we were lost or
We
what.
did get lost. I think we got lost
Yeah,
that
I
time.
think you're
Because
fine.
we had to you had to like flag down a car to give us a ride. I do remember that.
Gee.
Well, another memory I have up there is that we would walk down that road and there was a spring where you could fill up like your water bottle or a water bucket. It was kind of on the main road. And then if you really wanted to go for a long walk, you could walk to that little store where you could buy a candy
candy,
necklace.
yeah.
Candy necklace was like the hot
Yeah.
item. So, well, I remember it fondly. And I don't remember that there was nothing
And they
to do.
had, I don't know, they had during the summer religious education or something.
Oh, right, Bible
and
study.
I think you guys
Yeah?
went. I took you to that.
The one thing you haven't talked about that annoyed me to no end was we decided to paint the trailer.
Oh, yeah. And
Tell
I
me.
said the dumbest thing.
Well, after the paint, they helped me pick out the paint and everything, and I took the whole day painting it. I think the kids helped with it, got it all done, and after Marianne looked at it from a distance, says, "It kind of looks like a tank." And it just annoyed me to no end after all the work that I put in, and you helped
Well,
pick.
it did.
Well,
Come
because
on, be
remember
honest.
when it came home, I remember being blue and white, and I think Mom or you coined the phrase "pregnant whale."
Yes.
So then you picked the army green, is why she's saying it looked like a tank.
Well, we both picked it.
I guess it remained green ever after, right?
Yeah, well, there was a long story about what happened to it after we sold it, but
What happened to it?
well, a friend of mine bought it and hauled it off of that lot, Andy Holman,
Yeah.
and he hauled it up to
Fair play.
Fairplay or somewhere around Fairplay, and had it for a couple of years, and then somehow or other there was a fire, and it burned, and
Aw.
totally destroyed.
I'm so sad. Well, that's the end of the cabin. But what was your connection to Beulah, Mom? What didn't your grandpa build a church up there?
Yes, tell them about the church your grandpa Pettit built for Beulah.
Oh, well, my grandpa Pettit built the church up there at Beulah. Yeah, and so we used to go there on Sunday, yeah.
I don't remember the name of the. Do you remember the name of the church?
You know, I don't remember either. Yeah, I can just remember where it was.
It's still there. They
Yeah.
have not changed it in all the years.
Probably they still,
Yeah,
I don't know if they still have mess there or
I
not.
think they do.
Yeah,
on
reach
occasion.
me a couple of crackers and
All
a
right,
couple
all
of
right. We're
pieces
going
of
on to the
cheese.
next cabin in the next
You want
video.
some?
Okay, this is video 3, and we're going to do 2 cabins in one video. This would be the Crested Butte era. So, Dad, talk about Crested Butte, how we got to know it, and what it compelled you to buy cabins there.
Well, it was probably about 19 '72, maybe '73, that one of the guys that worked for me in the office had one of the old houses in Crested, Butte, and they were known as shotgun houses because you could just shoot a shotgun straight through the house. And we rented it one weekend, and it just really was nice up there because we skied and we could see, wow, this is great. So we started looking around for cabins. Finally found an old cabin, log cabin, that actually had been moved from the Gunnison area up to Crested Butte. And it was pretty small, had one bedroom for us and another big bunk room for all of the kids. So we did buy that. But I remember working on it over probably a year, doing a lot of the work, driving up our Chevy truck that Marla will remember, and with usually a couple kids, not all the kids, usually 2 kids, and a truckload of material, getting everything ready. And so that was fun. It was pretty ratty looking when they first bought it, and people said, well, you just put the furniture out on the front porch there, and with a note in the bulletin board in town, and people will come and take it. Well, it was just really bad looking stuff. And because they had put smoking marijuana and everything in there. And you could still smell it. So we put a notice up one day, and boy, by the end of the day, everything was gone. I mean, it was ugly stuff. So we didn't have to haul it away.
I remember you becoming enthralled with this barnwood you found and paneling the living room with this barnwood. Do you remember where you got the barnwood?
The barnwood was, I was one of the announcers for the local public television station. An auctioneer. And somebody had said they had, I don't know how many square feet of this barnwood. And I thought, wow, that would be really neat. And so I asked them, I said, could I bid on it? And they said, your money is as good as anybody's. And so we bid on it. I think it was like $100, and it was more wood than I thought. But we hauled it up there, and we nailed it into wood paneling for the that first cabin in Crested Butte.
That had a straight shot from the front door to the bathroom.
Yeah, through the back
Yes,
door.
I remember that.
But I do remember that one of the things I thought, well, it would be nice to find some old silver or gold mining stock certificates to put on the other wall, though, that would kind of match. And I just couldn't find any. And one guy came into the office one day and he said, can you give me a quote on Crested Butte silver mining? And I said, I've never heard of it. And he said, oh yeah. So I got him a quote. It was like $1 a share or something like that. And I thought, wow, if I could get some of those certificates, that would be great. So I bought, I don't know, 50 shares of it, asked for delivery of the stock certificates, and it was 3 times as much for the certificates as what I paid for it. So I never got the stock certificates. But later on, Crested Butte Silver Mining discovered molybdenum, which made it very valuable. So we sold the stock, and we had a nice trip to Disneyland. Had we held on to it, it could have been a worldwide trip. Because I think we bought it for $500 and sold it for $2,500.
Yeah, cool. And I guess we were going skiing then. I mean, we had the cabin, and I remember getting to take friends up, or we'd go up, and I guess we were all skiing. That's when you were teaching. You were, quote unquote, teaching us to ski. We never really got ski lessons. We just got Dad
yelling. Patty, I remember Patty. She didn't ever have bones when she was little. She was like Jello. And we were up on the kiddie slope, and I said, Patty, you've just got to go down. Just put those skis down and straight down. And she just looked at me with those Patty eyes. But I think I scared her. So she put the skis together, and by the time she got to the bottom, she understood what skiing was all about.
Okay, so why did you decide to sell that and buy something else?
Well, it was pretty small, and it was nicely located, so we finally found a much newer house at the end of the block on Teocalli. The cabin was on Teocalli. The new house was at the end of Teocalli, and it was kind of a modified A-frame, but it had a second level, which was, it was maybe 3 times the size of the other. And so it turned out to be really nice. We enjoyed it for many, many years. I don't think we sold that until 1990s, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, don't you remember I wanted, like, it was the 80s and like stripes on the wall were in, and remember I made you help me mask off this like two-tone stripe that would go across the wall and point to the bathroom. Do you remember that? And you indulged me, and you're like, okay, we can do that. You don't remember that? It was upstairs.
Gosh, I don't remember that, but what a nice father I was to indulge you.
Yeah, it was very 80s. It was very 80s.
It's funny how some things I remember, some things I do not.
Yeah. And, Chris and I got married, and we stayed in that cabin because you still had it, and that was 1990. But I do remember having to get up and go to church at 7:30 a.m. on Sundays, and then skiing, and then coming back and cleaning the cabin. And I don't think we ever did it to your satisfaction, Dad. But then we were shown by you how it was to be cleaned.
We had all clean and everything, and then getting the car ready to go, and then Dad would go in. 45 minutes later, he had come out after he had cleaned everything.
Well, we were renting the cabin when we weren't using it, and it was a nice source of income to pay for the upkeep of the cabin. And I wanted to make sure that it was good and clean. Nothing worse than a dirty cabin.
That's right. What's your favorite memory of that cabin, Mom? The second Crested Butte cabin.
Crested Butte?
Well, the second cabin. Like, what do you remember about it?
I remember, and while you're thinking about that, I remember that your hope was that we would all go up and go skiing,
oh, yeah.
and you'd have the whole place to yourself to read and do whatever you wanted. But everybody had to go skiing.
Everybody had to go. And I can remember standing there underneath the chairlift, not the main, but up there where the restaurant was like, and standing there and smelling the marijuana as everybody went up.
Remember, we used to run into Jimmy Carter and
yeah.
Rosalind and Amy.
Yeah.
Well,
And who was it? We had one of your friends up, and he was so excited because he was going to the bathroom next to Jimmy.
Well, yeah, let me tell you the story. I had invited these 3 friends up, plus their dad. We played poker at night, skied during the daytime, and one day we were in the lodge having lunch. This was the 4 skiers, and one of the guys said, "Where's the restroom?" And I said, "Well, just down that stair over there and to your right." So he came back a few minutes later, and his eyes were as big as saucers. And I was standing there taking a leak, and right next to me was Jimmy Carter. And I said, "Well, I hope you didn't turn abruptly and spray him. That would not be in good taste." But he was my dentist, and he always told the story about how he stood next to Jimmy Carter and peed.
Ah, Jimmy Carter.
Yeah.
Those were the good old days. All right, let's wrap up this segment. We're going to go to one more momentarily. is the final segment of the cabin series. This topic is Cuchara. So Dad was just talking about how they came up with Cuchara because nobody had ever heard of it. People can't even pronounce it. So Dad, tell us why and how you found Cuchara.
Well, I'd heard of Cuchara, and that is, by the way, Spanish for spoon.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd heard about it, and we were coming back from a business trip out in California, and for some reason or other, I'd talked to this realtor, and I said, let's just jump in the car and go up there and take a look at this cabin. And he showed us a couple cabins. One was really nice with a nice view, but a huge drop-off. And then he showed us this old A-frame cabin built by a contractor out of Texas that wasn't winterized and had a lot of things wrong with it, but your mother fell in love with it. Tell them why you love that first cabin in Cuchara, Marianne.
Why did I love it? Well, it was by a creek, and I guess
Well, the creek was not too far away. It was
yeah,
at the end of the property.
yeah.
But you liked it because it was all wood interior. It looked like an old cabin.
Oh, yeah.
And it had it had a bathroom upstairs and 2 small bedrooms with bunk beds, and then a bathroom downstairs with another bedroom, which was the master bedroom. Very small master bedroom, and there was another bathroom downstairs, so it could actually sleep, I think, almost 8 people.
I think so.
And it had
Yeah.
a pretty nice little kitchen, kind of old-fashioned.
Well, it was very small, yeah.
Everything was very small.
Yeah, we should have stayed there. We should never bought that other one.
Right, but then I know did you build that whole deck? Was there a deck at all, or did
There was an old deck there that Danny helped tear down, and then we got in trouble with the Warfano County because we didn't get a permit to tear the deck off. And we said we didn't know that we had to have a permit. We knew we had to have a permit to build a new deck. So we got that settled, and they just yelled at us, but they didn't fine us or anything. So Danny was in charge of building the deck, and of course when somebody else is paying for the material, Danny only works with the finest material, which is the finest redwood. So we spent a lot of money on redwood for the deck, and the joke for many years was 500 years from now, when the cabin has disintegrated, this beautiful deck will still be here. And people will say, why did you have a deck and no house to go with it? And we'll explain that Danny built the deck.
yeah?
And Doug also helped work on it, and Paul. And I do remember that we were doing some work on it, and you and Chris were up, and Chris chipped in, was helping us work.
Yeah. So how many years would you say you own that one? And what do you remember its address? Do you remember the address of that cabin?
It was 416, because I remember, but I do not remember the street. I probably have it in my files somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But it was set back on the lot. There was kind of a wilderness area behind us. We only had, I think, 2 neighbors. There was a little creek flowing across the end of the property, but the road came across there, and so we didn't really use that creek very much. But it was very nice, and a nice deck. We had a lot of very nice memories
There, yeah.
A lot of the kids and other people came up there.
And who were our neighbors on the left? They were nice.
The people, he was a dentist from Amarillo, Texas.
Texas, yeah, I
And
remember
I
him.
think I have not heard from them in a long time. The
Yeah.
other people, we never saw them. So.
Yeah, well, they changed.
And then we held that for probably at least 5 or 6 years, I would
Probably.
think.
And then why'd you decide to change it up and buy the other Cuchara place?
Well,
I guess
first,
because it was so small.
it was small, and it was nice, but it was small. You really couldn't have that many guests, and so we found another really nice place on a creek with a nice big deck.
We did think a lot about building onto that first
Yes, but it was so expensive that you would
Yeah.
still have the old cabin, and so we decided not to do that.
Right.
So we sold that at a pretty decent price, and then bought the other. Paid a lot more for that. I think we paid over 300,000
Did we?
for that.
Yeah.
Do you remember what the A-frame was? How much?
The A-frame was, I think, right around 100,000,
Oh my gosh.
or maybe a little less. But it did not have insulation. It did not have. We had to put in a new septic system because all they had was just a cesspool, which was illegal. And we had to pay for that. And we had to put new windows in, and we had to insulate and put. We put a fair amount of money into it. Not a huge amount, maybe $15,000 or $20,000.
Right. Well, I remember it being great. And I remember, Mom, you fell in love with Cuchara because I think you might have gone to see Cuchara in the fall, and the scrub oak, I remember you telling me, were blazing gold, and it was the most beautiful place you'd ever seen. And it was only like an hour and a half from Pueblo. Is that true?
Yeah, that's about an hour and a half, maybe a little
Yeah.
less. It was red and gold, and the Cuchara Chamber of Commerce had spray painted the trees red just to make the tourists buy cabins. But it was beautiful, and we did really enjoy it. I think it was just a little over an hour if you didn't stop in Walsenburg to get an ice cream cone.
Right. Oh, right. No. How about the ice cream place in La Vida? What was that called? Charlie's?
That was the local store.
Right, but you could get an ice cream in
You
there.
could get an ice cream cone. They had a fountain, and they had Bluebell ice cream. That was the first time I'd ever heard of it. Now it's my favorite.
Tell about the bar that was downtown Cuchara.
Oh yes, the famous Dog Bar, which is I think still operating, and it was called the Dog Bar, just kind of as a nickname. But there was a great big
Saint Bernard.
Saint Bernard named Princess, who used to lay in the doorway of the bar, and this is before the health department disallowed them, but you had to step over the dog to get into the bar. So that was really where the name the Dog Bar came from.
Right. And I bless, Patty got married down there, and I remember her having her post-wedding, post-reception party in the Dog Bar.
In the Dog Bar. We had dinner in the restaurant, the Timbers restaurant, and then she had made a deal with somebody with the band. They would pay for half of it, and there were a lot of the cowboys that came in, and they were dancing, and they were having a great time.
I can still remember Bonnie Scheibel out there dancing with the cowboys.
Yeah.
Well, good. All right. Well, let's wrap up the cabin series. What would you say? What compelled you? I mean, was it the adventure of getting away? Why did you always want to have a cabin?
Well, I think it was just the idea of getting away, and when you have 7 kids, you need to have some way to entertain them at a reasonable cost. And it was fun. The skiing at Crested.
Get them
Butte.
off the streets of Pueblo.
Yeah, that's right. Get them out of the bars and onto the ski slopes. But the other thing that we learned very quickly is those properties, every single one of them, we sold at a nice profit. And they were always in Marianne's name, so Marianne was the one that got credit
Ooh,
for
good.
buying them and selling them. And we did. We made money on every single one.
Did we?
Of those.
Okay.
Because what we liked about having a second home was thousands and thousands of other Coloradoans like the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, thank you for all the time and energy spent fixing up cabins. And now we're on to the next cabin. So I hope I try to share it with the family or have people up here.
Well, tell us about your A-frame.
Well, no, this is about you guys. Our A-frame, I think, came from the fact that we had an A-frame, and Dave and I found this place and just fell in love with it, and we've been working at it for 3 years, and I feel like it's pretty fixed up.
It's very nice.
It was fixed up before, but we've done a few things, and we love coming up here. And the big project for me has been getting this dam done so we can have a lake down there, which next year we'll have it. I thought it was going to be this year, but now I'm kind of skeptical. But we have our creek. Indy loves it. We like to go hiking and kayaking and fishing and deck sitting. Deck sitting is one of our big activities here. So, all right. Well, thanks, Mom and Dad, and we love you. And thanks for all the cabin memories. Bye. Wave, Mom.
Now you're gonna post it.